I didn't go looking for race. Race found me. Race found me in the ways that people racialized me, in the gaze through which they saw me, in the playground, in the classroom, on the street, in local shops. But much of the othering I experienced actually came when I entered the workplace, in professional settings. As a young barrister, for example, constantly being mistaken for the defendant, or worse still, the girlfriend of the defendant. If I'm going to be a criminal, at least let me have some agency. Not the counsel representing one. As a journalist, constantly being asked by editors if I have any contacts in gangs for a knife crime story. Can I go undercover in Muslim communities to report on radicalization? Or what scheme did I get my job through? And as a TV anchor, having my body and hair endlessly analysed, one boss said to me, "I'm not being racist, but," never start a sentence that way, FYI, "your afro takes up too much of the screen." I'll let you be the judge of that. Or in more subtle ways. And I would say actually one of the things that probably most profoundly affected me throughout my life was something I describe as the question. This is the back cover of my book. The question is, where are you from? It's not a question, it's the question. Because unlike other questions, it's often asked as a precondition to having a conversation. It's not the same as being asked where you're from because you have a foreign accent, because you actually have to speak for somebody to ask you that question. This is a question that you are asked just because of how you look. And for as long as I can remember, people have, innocently enough, been asking me where I am from. I'm British. I've only ever been British. And actually, ironically, I've lived in so many other countries in my life and in my professional life. And nowhere have I been asked where I'm from as much as I get asked here in Britain, where I'm from. In drawing attention to this question, I'm not attacking the curiosity of people who ask it, often in a well-meaning way. And in fact, people who are overtly racist rarely bother to ask you the question. They just tell you to bugger off back to wherever it is they imagine you came from. More on that later. People who ask the question are curious, and often it's a way of starting a conversation. And I, for one, am unfailingly interested in other people's backgrounds. I, as you can see, write and research heritage. And in fact, many of my white British friends have fascinating immigration stories. They've traced Viking or Celtic ancestors. They have Jewish or Mediterranean heritage. But they don't get asked the question because they're not perceived as visibly other. The question is reserved for people who look like me. And the effect of being singled out and asked this question based on your skin colour is that it creates the unsettling impression that if you look like this, you can't really be from here. My grandmother, Joyce Owusu, will never be regarded as having assimilated into Britishness. She's a black woman. All I have witnessed her experience all my life, abuse, harassment, and microaggressions. She would never describe them that way herself, and she would be horrified to hear me doing so. In fact, she'd be horrified by just about everything I'm saying here. Keep your head down, she always tells me. Don't start arguments with white people. This is their country. Just be quiet. The underlying reason for the question, I believe, is the subconscious belief in this idea that the true owners of Britishness as an identity, and especially of Englishness, are linked to whiteness. That if you are not white, you must be from somewhere else, and you have an explanation, you can offer it. Britishness, at its heart, is a white identity, and people of African heritage have a history that could not be more far removed. That's why I think it's important to tell these stories. One of the reasons it's actually most annoying to be asked where I'm from is that many people who look like me have families who were born in the Empire, and these are some of the most patriotic British people I have ever met. My mother, for example, was raised in the Gold Coast, as it then was, to believe that the royal family were the ultimate force for good in the world. You will not meet a royalist as devoted as my mother, I challenge you. And that becoming as British as possible was the best thing that could happen to you. This is how the empire worked. It didn't just end when the formal boundaries fell away. It conditioned people to believe in the inferiority of their own culture and history so that they could believe that Britain was doing them a favour by colonising them. It was an incredibly effective strategy, and we have inherited that conditioning today.